My name is Pamela Campbell Bailey, and I am the creator of the Antebellum Diaspora Project. That's where I'm finding family that was separated by slavery in the Antebellum South, and we're telling the stories of our ancestors. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with people who may be new to the channel exactly what the Antebellum Diaspora Project is all about and how I got started on this journey. I am from a small city in South Carolina. It is a place where both my mother and my father were born, and it has been the home for many branches of my ancestral family for many generations. I had the blessing of having a mother and a father who knew quite a bit about their ancestral history and the places in South Carolina where their families had been enslaved. And so my mother and father were able to pass along quite a bit of information to both me and my siblings through the many stories that they told us about our family, and also through the music, through songs. So my dad, in my opinion, was a very brilliant man. Knew a lot about a lot of things, including politics and the arts and world news and world history. But he made sure, again, that information about our families were inculcated, into our daily life, whether it was through the things that we grew in the garden or how we prepared certain foods. But he wanted to be sure that we knew who we were, where we came from, and to be proud of who we were. But I grew up in an era where we were, like James Brown used to say, we were black and we were proud. And so honestly, I never really thought a whole lot about the African aspect of my African American culture. So that didn't begin to happen until I got into college. I had the blessing again of going to an HBCU, South Carolina State University, and it was probably to this day one of the best experiences of my life. I was very nurtured there, made great friendships there, and friends that are my friends to this very day. I didn't know that a lot of those friends in high school and college were actually family until I began to do this project. But I'll talk a little bit about that later. Once I got into South Carolina State University, I had the opportunity to be taught by some amazing instructors. Several of those instructors were from various countries in Africa, and they were actually the first people to pique my interest about where my family had come from beyond the Carolinas. On a couple of different occasions, I had several different African instructors pose a question to me, and that was, where are you from? It was a simple question, and I just assumed that they were thinking about where did I come from in South Carolina to be able to come to this college. But that's not what they were asking me. When they were posing the question to me, where are you from, they had assumed that I was first generation American and that my parents were from an African country. And that sort of blew my mind because no one had made any kind of distinction to me before, referencing that they thought that I could be from someplace else other than from the Carolinas. And I told them, where my hometown was. And they said, no, where are you from? Where you're originally from, or where your parents from? So it dawned on me that they thought that I was first generation American. They thought that my parents, or at least my grandparents, had come from a country into Africa. But my family has been here for many generations, and in some branches of the family, since before this was actually a country. They were here before the Revolutionary War. They thought that I was from the countries that they were from. One was Nigerian, the other was Congolese. And so they would tell me how much I looked like their mothers or their sisters or their aunties, and they were really surprised that I was not from their respective countries. So I was very flattered by that, but I never really thought much about it beyond that. And then when I graduated and I ended up moving to a larger city in North Carolina, I began getting that question all the time. And I would get questions from people who were pretty well traveled, and they would often stop and ask me, what country was I from? And again, coming from Americans, it was very almost off-putting that they would think that I was from someplace else other than here in this country. But I can tell you, for over the last 30 years, as I've lived in several different states now, including here in Texas, I still get asked the question all the time. And so it really piqued my curiosity. It was about 2009 when I really began to get serious about the genealogy research. And so I reached out to the person in my father's family whom I thought knew the most about his family because she'd been telling me stories for years, and that was my great aunt Lucy May. And so I had a conversation with her, and she began to tell me so much information about my family, including how their names may have appeared on census records and what those correct names should have been, and also some of the careers and the educations of some of her family members, as well as about a particular ancestor, her grandmother, who was Laura Atkinson Campbell, who had been born around the 1840s, and she remembered her. She had been able to have a relationship with her because Laura almost lived to be 100 years old. And so it was just really fascinating for me. So that really got me on this journey of taking very seriously finding out information about my ancestors and connecting the genealogy information with the stories that my parents had told me as a child. My family gave me a kit for my birthday back in 2017, and that's where my journey began with the DNA. So when I got the results for my DNA test, I had all kinds of surprises that I was excited to learn about. The first is that I am still 95% African. I am from all the places that those people had assumed that I was from in my DNA. But again, we do know that most of the people of African American descent who in this country are descended from people who were emancipated in 1865, that there is a chance that they're going to be anywhere from 10 to 25% European because of all the atrocities that our foremothers experienced on plantations and farms during their enslavement. But I was 95% African still. I am also about 2% Native and then only 3% European. So all of that was a big surprise to me. And so another big surprise is that I had family all over the country, literally from one coast to the other coast. There was a time after the transatlantic slave trade ended where people who were born in this country, at least 2.5 million of them, were taken away from their families and moved either in different places within their states or from one state to another state. And so as this country grew during the antebellum era, my family was moved from state to state to state to state. Sometimes they could be moving with a family who had enslaved them as they were getting free land from the country that was trying to expand. And then there were lots of ancestors who literally were sold on auction blocks or who were sold to traders who walked them across the country or shipped them across the country. So consequently, I found out again, I had a lot of family who had been permanently separated because of slavery in the antebellum South. So what do you do? What do you do when you find out this kind of information? When you find out that you've got family all over the country, people who may look like you or talk like you, have the same personality traits that you may have, the same gifts and talents, and you have no idea who they are because they are descended from the same family, but they were permanently separated back in the 1800s. So here's what I decided to do. I decided to start reaching out to people who had indicated that they wanted to hear from other people who wanted to find out more about their families. So from that was born the Antebellum Diaspora Project. So what I've done is I have started reaching out to family, reuniting my family, and now working towards reuniting or at least finding connections for other people as well. So that's what the Antebellum Diaspora Project is. And I am working to share this very negated history. This is American history that has been negated from the history books and honestly from the knowledge of most Americans, not just African Americans. But I am on a mission to find my family and in some cases to help you find your families as well. So if you want to know more about the Antebellum Diaspora Project, stay tuned. We're going to give you a way to be able to be a part of the project, to share, information to help others find their families. So it doesn't matter what side of this history that you're on. If you've got a heart and a mind to help reunite families that were separated by slavery in the antebellum South, hey, we are the project that you want to know more about. Thank you again for watching the channel today. And if you want to know more about the Antebellum Diaspora Project, please stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and like the video. Thank you.